What's up guys, Thomas XSL here, and I have a very cool video. I have a video of another program to use alongside Second Life. It was actually made it was made by somebody in Second Life, but first I'm trying to look for, to kind of kick off this video, I want to show this awesome vehicle I found on Marketplace. I can't even remember what the heck it was called. And if that's the case, it's probably in the bottom of my folder. No, it's not. Where the heck is it at? I try to keep my inventory normal. Oh, here we go. This is a 1965 What If Motors with two F's. What If Motors Chariot Hearse. This thing is awesome because I didn't think anybody had made this in Second Life. It's based on a 1965 Ford Econoline van, E100 van. It's actually a van I had in real life, and it's just really, it's not spot on, but it's really darn close. Like this, these vents by the headlights would be a little taller in real life, and it wouldn't have the quad lights. It'd have just two. But I mean, I could tell what they were going after, what style they were going after. Just really awesome. So I'm gonna jump in it. This thing's kind of loud, so I don't know how loud it's gonna be on the video, but I'm gonna jump in kind of at a distance here. See how loud is that? It's got the old Plymouth Roadrunner TA engine pack, so it's all muscular sounding. I don't know if that's too loud for y'all or not. Hopefully you can hear me over the rumble of the engine. And I'm going to turned off the noise in my viewer. Hopefully now you can just hear me talking. So you can see the interior without the engine like deafening you. So it's real detailed. It's not all regular prim, but it's mostly, I think these seats are sculpted, and I think that's like the only thing that's sculpted. It's 256 prim, so this van is actually using the max number of prims you can use in any build to link like anything together. And it's got the cross on top. So this is a Chariot Hearse. I couldn't believe that somebody made this, because I mean, I've seen so many vehicles and I haven't seen this yet. I haven't even seen a mesh version of this van yet. And I've seen a lot of vans, but a lot of the snouty vans, the vans with the little snout with the motor up in the front. This one is actually missing the doghouse. See, in real life, this van would have, the engine would be right here, literally in the cab between the driver and passenger. I don't have mine anymore in real life because it had a lot of problems and I had to get rid of it. And I think this shift boot, yeah, the shift boot is sculpted. And mine, the shifter was actually on the side, it was on the tree. There's a 3-speed on the column. And it's got a curtain. What's behind the curtain? What's behind curtain number 1? Really nothing. There's they could have went for a sculpted coffin or something. I know there's coffins you can buy full perm. Oh, it's got a shag carpet. I didn't notice that earlier. I thought it was just gray. And some of the outside details, like the trim rings. But I was actually gonna make I was gonna make one of these one of the vans, but one of the things I had problems with was just finding the drive pose. Like you see this one, it's like, oh, it looks good, like I'm in the seat, everything looks fine, except are those the tips of my tennis shoes sticking out of the vehicle? And actually, if you go inside, you'll see that I'm actually taking the normal drive pose. And with this fan, when you're sitting in it, it's almost like you're sitting in a kitchen chair, like your feet dangled down. And this is, oops, I'm right clicking when I don't mean to be. I'm still going to make mine. I'm still going to make the van the one I had planned to originally, but anyways, it even though it's 256 prims, this thing does drive, and it's not hard to control. It's got the old drifting thought script, not drifting Turner, drifting thought script. So it's using the over 32 prim glitch without using the KCP script. It's just using the standard, convex hull trick. And what was I gonna say? Oh, about this pose. So have you ever looked for a pose and you were just, it was like the simplest of poses and you couldn't find it on Marketplace, and you find some that are kind of close to your inventory but not quite what you're looking for, and then you ask in the groups, oh, does anybody make poses? And they're either giving you smart ass answers, or people are telling you, oh, why don't you try and do it yourself? And you're like, well, if I could do that myself, I would have done it. So the program I'm going to talk to you all about today is something called, let me get the name right. Always want to get the name right. Alright guys, so this is it. Qavimator. It's at www.qavimator.org. This was made by somebody in Second Life. It's very easy to use and safe to download. Of course, you can have your antivirus scan this before you download it, but I've downloaded this, no problem. It's so easy to use. Usually the poses and whatnot will be done by motion capture, but of course that's really, really pricey, and this is free, just like GIMP and what was the other one? GIMP and Audacity. So this is like a third. This is a third very, very useful program. Alright. Now, one thing important that they don't really tell you is if you're making poses for driving, you gotta make sure that you set the pose low. Preferably with, you gotta set the pose low where you kind of sit partially in the ground if you just taken on the animation. Because what'll happen is, if you make it too high, then when you play the animation in the vehicle's going to raise up and be high. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to get out of this van, delete it. Oh, they returned it to my lost and found. I hate when that happens, because then that folder just bulks up with crap. So I'm just going to go real quick and just knock that out, put that in the trash, because that van's copyable. Here we have a Formula 1 car, full perm Formula 1 car, and this actually got a bad review because of what I'm about to show you and what I'm talking about, the animations. Stupid pod, get out of the way. Freaking pod. Alright, now check this out. So the front end is lifted in the air, and if you look here, the roof prim is sitting real low. But check this out. We're going to raise it up. So raise up the roof prim, and when we get back in it, see, we raise the roof prim and the vehicle still, well, we're riding high now, but the vehicle is still raised and hasn't lowered any. And that's because the driver's position has been set too high and it needs a lower driving sit. And when we get into Qavimator, I'm going to show you what I mean. But yeah, you want to sync any driver sits and even motorcycle poses kind of into the ground. And I'm going to show you that. We're going to go ahead and bring up Qavimator now, and instead of doing like a simple waving high tutorial or whatever, we're going to go right into making a driving pose for the van that I'm going to later make. So we need the top half to be kind of like this, like a normal driving pose, but then we're going to have kind of a chair type seating for the waist and below. Bring up Qavimator. There we go. Bring it down. And this is what it looks like. And it looks like I'm going to have to make my screen a little bigger to accommodate it. Actually, can I shrink it? Oh, I can shrink it down. There we go. I don't want to cram it down too much, but... Alright, so here we go. Here's Qavimator. Yeah, File, Edit, Tools, Options, and Help. And this is the mannequin. And this is a floor. This floor relating to the mannequin is... I mean, the floor isn't just there for looks. It's actually in relation to what the floor in Second Life, or the ground in Second Life, how it relates to your avatar. So, if you go right here to hip, is this the hip? Yeah, hip. Hip is the, you have the positions over here, and hip is actually the one that moves up and down. So move up and down, or your X position goes side to side, and Z position goes back and forth, so X, Y, Z. If you get them out of order, you just 0 the X position and 0 the Y position. And then you have your rotations where you can pivot, tipping back and forth, tipping or twisting side to side, and then actually rocking side to side. And like the position, you just go to 0 on all of those. And then down here you have the keyframes, and this is, you can do poses or animations. So if you're going to do poses, you see here it says 2 of 30, and this can actually be, if you hit the up arrow, it gives you more frames for longer animations. I think you can go up to 30 seconds is the longest animation you can do in Second Life, so it's a pretty decent sized animation. Now if you're going to do a pose, what you're going to do is, and you can shrink this down too by hitting this tab here, and you can just left click and drag, just swipe that and set it at 2, and then you can see the keyframes go down to just 2. The very first frame, the reason why it's not going on number 1 frame is because the number 1 frame is this T pose, or it's going to be whatever default pose that your avatar is in before it does the pose that you're setting. So you always want to be in the 2nd frame. That's just one of those things where that's just, it has to be that way. If you're in number 1 frame, it's going to mess the pose up. Somebody else was saying that when you start moving different body parts, you have to set each and every single XYZ joint at 1 or -1, or plus or minus 1, or else that, like, the pose wouldn't work right in SL. I've done it without doing that, with having with some limbs set at 0, and it seems to work fine for me. But I guess if there is any issue with yours, then you might try doing that plus or minus 1, but I haven't noticed it messing with me any. What I have noticed is sometimes you'll be in the middle of a posing, and an entire limb, because here you don't move the entire limb, it's just the different joints like the wrist, the forearm, or the upper arm. But sometimes in the middle of a pose, the entire limb will turn like a purplish, like different shades of purple, and when you try and move them around, the whole limb will just wiggle wobble real like weird like, and it won't be responding. And to fix that, what I've found out you can do is just go to File and just say, or you hit Optimize BVH, where the BVH is what you're going to save the pose. That's the last 3. I forgot what they call those things, like a TGA or JPEG or PNG, the file name. That's what the file name is going to be under BVH. That tells the Second Life when you upload it that it is a pose or animation. But if you hit this optimize, it kind of cleans up your pose, And it's more for like animations, any animations that you decide to discard later, or any little limb movements you want to discard later, you hit that optimize BVH. But I guess it's not really for poses, but I do it for poses just to clean them up anyways. If there's any residual movements I did on the poses that I changed back. And then mirror, which that just, if you're looking right, you hit mirror, you'll look left, and here's options. You have the skeleton, show the avatar skeleton, and then what else? Joint limbs, loop, protect first frame, which that's what we got. That's why it's on 2 of 2 and not 1 of 2. And then show timeline, and that's down here. And let me see, and you got cut, copy, paste. I don't really mess with those. And then here's the add, and then export. I don't really use export. And then props. You have props, and what all the props are is like a square. Hit square, and there's a square, and you use XYZ to move it. This square does not attach to your mannequin. It's just here for placement. Like if you wanted this mannequin to walk up to like a door, or like you're walking up to a vehicle, you would have this as your vehicle marker. And let's see how, and that is you just hit this X, yeah, and then it just takes the props away. But you can also attach them to the avatar too if you want the hands so far apart. But when you upload it, you're only going to have a box like on your avatar. It's just for placement. And yeah, let's see, animation, that's what you're going to title your animation. And figure is male and female, and it doesn't do anything to your avatar and world. It just, this is just for like gender specific poses. You can switch back and forth. And then edit part, position, the hip, abdomen, chest, neck, all that. And let me see if I'm trying to see if I'm missing anything. These buttons here are, one of these is that I believe is to add a keyframe, and then this loop tool just plays your animation over and over, so you can look for it and look for any bumps that might need to be smoothed out or anything. But it's, you don't really use it for the poses though. For a pose, it's pretty much single frame. And so we're gonna go ahead and just dive right into this. So this is what I was talking about though, about syncing like driving poses into the ground. Now, if they're animations or driving poses, you can edit them while the mannequin's above ground, but just don't forget on the second frame, on this frame, sync it into the ground. If you sync it into the ground at a later frame, like in an animation, then the mannequin will actually sink into the ground, and when you play it, if you upload it in world, your avatar will be sinking into the ground, which will not be good. But here we're going to just do a stationary pose. So we're going to just start off by, and if you want your avatar to turn around or whatever in world during the animation, you would do it with the mannequin. But for driving pose, we're going to leave it facing, well, there's not really any directions, but I think poses always face east though when you upload them, or at least when you drop them into vehicles. You remember how we talk about vehicles, whenever you drop a new script in a vehicle, you're facing east. But that's the default direction for these poses as well. So for a driving pose, let's see, we'll just start by, this is how easy this is. I mean, you can go right into this and you can do simple or unsimple, simple or complex poses. I have no previous pose experience, so don't think that I'm like any kind of expert at this. I'm just found this and dove right into it and was already making animations and stuff on the first day. But I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this ahead. When I first saw that button mirror, I thought it meant that if you move the left side, the right side will move, but that's not the case. But it's easy to get both sides the same. All you gotta do is just copy these numbers. And I think it's negative numbers for the left side, and is it positive for the right side? No, it's negative for both sides. Some of the limbs it's negative, It might be on the twist, but so we're just going to make this one symmetrical. So I'm just going to type in 3. Sometimes the sliders, the sliders are kind of a pain sometimes when you're trying to slide it between that perfect number. And I'm just going to kick this down. Just to be detailed, I'm going to have this out a little bit, and then this one here being the non-accelerator leg, I'm going to have that back like that. And legs are a little bit too close together, so we're going to go on the blue axis and just spread them out. 12, and here I think it gets, yeah, here it's positive on the left and negative on the right. Negative 12. And you can do all kinds of poses. I mean, I was making some sexy ones that you're going to see either Junkbox, Tart, or Queenie Meow come into world with, or use in world rather. And as you're moving the mannequin, you'll notice that there's these holes in the joints, like on the knee looks all ripped up, or in the butt part there's like a big old hole, or in the shoulder there's a big hole. No, your avatar is not going to have those holes. Your avatar is going to move very smoothly. This is just how this Qavimator mannequin is set up, to have these breaks, but they will not appear on your avatar when you upload the animation, because that would just be beyond freaky. I imagine you can even do like love poses or whatever, but I imagine like not to get too graphic, but the actual like sex poses might be a little tricky, because you got to keep moving the hip, and that's like your base that's like the center of what would you call that? That's like the mannequin center, moving the hip, but you're going to move everything. So if you do make those kind of poses, you might have your avatar might be kind of dancing all over the place instead of just like rocking the hips or whatever. But and here I'm just going to bring the arms down. Now we can do this, we can actually do this driving pose one of two ways. We can actually have that both hands are straight out and mirrored, or we could probably have like the left arm cocked like on the windowsill, which might be how I might pose it that way, because that just looks cool, and you don't see a whole lot of cool poses like that in Second Life. There's the potential for it, but you normally see like driving poses just like stiff, symmetrical. So this opens up a whole world of like just really cool driving animations, or not just driving animations, but animations in general. Especially when it comes to like motorcycle animations, there'd be a lot of cool potential for animations. Let's see. The steering wheel in that van is kind of flat, but I'm just going to have the hand like that. Try and spread the arm out. It gets a little tricky. There we go. Sometimes it gets kind of tricky in here to get the hand out, and you got to play around with the shoulders, the shoulder blade, shoulder blade. Well, this little, that little sliver right there, I guess it is the shoulder. And then you got the upper arm. You can zoom in. Oh, and before I go any further, when you cam around, you don't have to hit Alt like you do in World. I'm just clicking left click and clicking on the ground, and then just moving my mouse around. Or if you have a scroll wheel, you can scroll in and out as well. And if you happen to make a mistake and you save, and I'm just left clicking on the limbs as well. If you make a mistake on like a pose and you have to like fix something or redo something, it's really easy. You can just bring it right back up and it'll appear just like this, and you can make your adjustments and then resave it. Let me see, I'm going to bend this elbow. But it is really cool. And then even animating, like actually moving actually moving this mannequin to like I haven't tried walking yet, but just like having them look moving around to an animation is really cool. You can do, man, you can use this for like gestures or like anything really. I think I'm gonna roll that shoulder forward like that, pull this back. Yeah, it's really easy. I mean, and the crazy thing is, you see poses going for like $400 or $500 on like Marketplace. Tilt the head a little forward. There we go. So you can do your own custom animations. There's a few vehicles out there where it's like you need like a certain animation, and like the standard animations aren't gonna work well with it. But then at the same time, it's like you ask people for help that do stuff like that make stuff for people, and sometimes they get they can be a little asinine with their answers, or smart aleck with their answers or whatever, and here you can just make the pose yourself, and even set it for sale yourself on Marketplace. So let's see, how does that look? It looks like the arm is not. I'm trying to do this in real life. I don't know. I think the arm's a little more cocked forward. Try not to make it look too funny. It's got to be a cool pose. You got to probably have the hand more down, right? Got to have that forearm more. Which one was it? There we go. You're kind of limited there on how far this stuff can move, but see, for that van, I think the hand needs to be tilted more down like that, and then over. When we get down here, we're going to do the important part, which is to sync this pose. Motorcycle poses are pretty easy, because once you get the main driving pose, then you can just take that, you can open that driving pose back up, move the leg, and you got an idle pose, or reverse, or a park pose. I think that was cool. I keep thinking the hand's too close to the chest, but maybe not. Alright, so we're gonna see, how does that look? That looks pretty good. I want to drop this arm down just like a hair. Is that good? That's not too big. I know those steering wheels are huge, but let me see. Let me bring the... how's that? That's not too low, is it? That's good. Alright, so there we go. Driving pose. Now you can click the hip and move, or if you have nothing selected, you can just hit Y position, and we're going to sync it. We're going to sync it pretty low. Probably don't need to go -1. Probably can go like 1, maybe 1. 1's good. We just want it sunk in the ground, so when we bring it in world and we put it in a vehicle, if you're using the ACS scripts, of course you can adjust, but at least you will be able to drive around without your vehicle lifting up off the ground. If you had the mannequin way up here and you brought it in world, then your vehicle would lift up and there'd be nothing you could do, because that's how high the pose is set. And if you double click on the pose, to see it in world without putting it in anything scripted, your avatar will jump up in the air. So we're going to set him at a +1. There we go. And you don't have to hit optimize BVH. I just do it just out of habit, but it's more for like when you start actually making this guy move. And we're going to do more videos where we actually have him move around and do stuff, but for right now you can go to File and Save As. Alright, so here's the other important part. We're gonna just call this 65 van drive, and then dot BVH. You must put BVH for it to work as opposed, and then you just save, and you can leave this open, or if not, if you have to come back to it, then all you got to do is just go to File, Open, and then open the pose. But oops. Okay, now we can just close it out like this. Get out of this vehicle. Oh, they returned it to me. They returned it to me. I don't want it. I already have one. I don't want another one. Okay, so here we go. We're going to upload this. Oh, and you must have 10 lindens in order to upload an animation. Same as a texture or a audio file. And upload animation, 10 linden. Yeah, what do I got? 65 van drive. Now when you open this, you are going to get a... Now if you're in Firestorm, your avatar is going to be the one to model this, but I'm in Singularity, which has this crazy gray avatar. Looks like a Ruth. It's got Ruth hair. It's got this gray avatar with no features, and it gets kind of difficult. Always want to hit loop, even if you want your animation to only play for a couple seconds. Make sure that loop is checked. The script is going to be what makes your animation only play for a few seconds. But definitely have loops, or else you're going to go into your animation for like a half second, and then you're going to be back up standing in a default pose. Priority. Now in Firestorm, the highest priority is 4. In Singularity, it's actually 5. You don't need to go up that high, just go to 4. Priority is what animations or poses are going to override other poses. So 4 is good. 4 is the highest you usually go. A hand pose, you can pick. Now here's where you pick like whether you want fists or peace sign or typing or salute. And if there's any myths going around about flipping the bird, you'll see that is actually the middle finger pose is not an option. So we'll have fist, which means both hands are going to be fist. Expression, you can have like this surprised face. Whoops, come here. My cursor's acting up. You can have a big smile, or laugh, or repulsed, or whatever. We're just going to go with none, because it's just regular driving. Preview while standing. You can preview while walking, sitting, flying, but I mean, I think all poses are previewed by with standing. And then the ease in, how many seconds to ease in. And you can pick 1. I'm not sure what the max is, but we're just going to pick 0. Whoops, that's a comma. 0.300. That's a good one. That's a good number. 0.33. I mean 0.300. There we go. And then you just hit play, and it's gonna, as you can see, the loop is, it keeps replaying, but when you're looking at it, it looks like you're just going into the pose. But if you didn't have a loop, then it would just do. You didn't even see it, did you? It's like quick, and then you go right back up to standing. So you always want to make sure to have that looped, or else your avatar in world is not going to be able to keep the pose for very long. If everything looks good, hit stop. Priority 4, loop is checked. Our hand pose is at fist. You know what? We have our arm cocked out the window. I just realized that instead of fist, I'm just going to go with fist right, because our left hand is cocked out the window and we want it relaxed. Our left hand doesn't necessarily have to be a fist. And let's see, everything else looks good, and we just uploading, and it's that quick, and it's in. There is in our inventory 65 van drive. Double click it to bring it up, and there it is. And you could put something in the description as well, but I think it's been a while since anybody's put anything in their description. So I'm going to take off my blazed cigarette so that smoking animation doesn't get in the way of this, and I have my AO turned off. And you can, if you hit play locally, it only plays to yourself. If you hit play in world, everybody else can see it. And there we go, we're sunk in the ground, which means we're going to have a nice low pose. Everything looks good. If you want to see your legs, you can. I can't see my feet, man. Cut off at the shins. The majority of me is above ground, so you can see that it is playing awesomely. And now we have a pose that I have asked other people to make. For whatever reason, they weren't able to make it for me, or they were charging outrageous to make it, and here I've done it. Well, I don't want to say for free, because it did cost 10 linens to upload. Anyways, guys, that is how to make a simple driving pose in Qavimator. I wanted to make something that we were going to actually be using, and not just something that was just, oh, I uploaded this for a simple tutorial, but I have no real use for it. I wanted to make something that was going to be pretty useful. So it's a pretty cool driving animation. And if you wanted to make another driving animation for a regular car, you would just reopen the Qavimator and bend your knees out so that your feet aren't sticking to the floor of a regular car. But later on, once I make the van, we're gonna check out how this driving pose looks in Qavimator. I mean, not Qavimator, in the van build, which that might be. I'll probably do little updates on that, how that's coming along. I haven't started it yet, but at least got the pose for it. That was like the main thing, because all the other poses have my feet sticking to the front, and it just was not good. And I probably should stop sitting in the middle of the road. So guys, this concludes the, where'd my glasses go? There we go. This concludes the Qavimator tutorial. It is real brief. If you have any questions on it, let me know. I'll answer them, or if I don't know the answer, I'll go find the answer from someone that does know. But man, there's so many poses we can do. I mean, with this, I mean, obviously you need like motion capture if you're gonna do some like 10-step salsa, like fancy dancing and stuff. But I mean, for probably the majority of the poses that you'd be looking for, you found the source to make them right there with Qavimator. So like, rate, subscribe, join the Thomas XSL family, be an XSL. I don't know what an XSL is, but come be one with us. And as always, take care. Damn, how's this for some sexy posing?